What's up, guys? I'm SaltEMike, and this is your Star Citizen Week in Review for December 8th, 2025. Engineering is the main focus of this week, with 4.5 already in open PTU. Wicklow is getting some big updates, and the CZs too, and the thing I'm most interested in, these barrel attachments are kind of a game changer. All that and more on today's Week in Review. And as always, if this is your first Week in Review, this is where I take all of the official Star Citizen news each week, put it into one video, and share some of my opinions about it. I also live stream on Twitch, twitch.tv/SaltEMike. Stop by and say hi if you haven't yet. I always enjoy seeing you guys over there. We have so much to get into, but before we do, let me share with you today's sponsor. The holiday season is upon us, and while you're busy giving gifts to everyone else, don't forget the most important person, yourself. This year, treat yourself to the ultimate self-care experience with the Performance Package 5.0 Ultra from Manscaped. Trust me, your grooming game is about to hit the nice list. Let's start out with the star of the show, the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra. This grooming powerhouse features two interchangeable skin-safe blade heads, the skin-safe trimmer blade for precision, and the skin-safe foil blade for that close, clean cut. The Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra includes 3 length-setting combs as well, ranging from 1.4 millimeters to 12 millimeters for customizable grooming. Also included in the kit is the new Weed Whacker 3.0 Pro. This trims all the stray hairs your face creates, your nose, your ears, and now your eyebrows with the updated dual blade system. This is now my most used trimmer by far, as yeah, the hairs on my ears and brows grow like weeds. And don't forget the Crop Soother Ball Aftershave Lotion and the Crop Preserver Anti-Chafing Ball Deodorant for that festive finishing touch. These come in the Performance Package 5.0 Ultra as well. And you also don't want to forget the free gifts that come with the package. You get these awesome boxers as well as the travel kit. This holiday season, treat yourself or someone special to the ultimate grooming experience with the keep that keeps on giving. That's the Performance Package 5.0 Ultra from Manscaped. It covers all your shaving, trimming, and post-grooming needs, ensuring you wrap the year looking and feeling amazing. Use my promo code SaltEMike15 and you'll get 15% off your entire order at checkout. Once again, that is 15% off with promo code SaltEMike15 at Manscaped.com. Trust me when I say this, fellas, your jingle balls will thank you. All right, and with all the bills paid, let's get into the patch notes. All right, we'll start out on Monday with a 4.5 PTU. This was the first Wave 1 patch of 4.5, so I will include a bulk of the new stuff here in this section, so strap in. It was a lot more than I think you expect. The first note was a small blurb about visual updates to Smoke and Fire, but the big update here was for PvE and mainly PvP ship combat pilots, as they were the community that was championing these changes, specifically around racing ships and interceptor class ships. So where I'm not sure, on these things totally, so you should probably check out PvP content creators and discords and things like that for the real details. But my guess here is they're generally beefing up maneuvering speeds of these ships, like the Zoomy type ones, but properly balancing them in combat where they were too strong in combat in previous patches. So here's where the balance seems to be. Racing ships are getting 20% higher emissions, where they were previously some of the stealthiest ships by far. I used to use the Razor EX to get pure Karenite out of Hathor. Their master mode spool time is going to be brutal now, but more importantly, they will be able to boost 25% longer, which seems to be a racing improvement, but not necessarily a combat one. And they're also going to take 10% more damage as a general debuff to deter them from being on the field during PvP fights. Probably a good change if it works, but yeah, we'll see where the meta falls in a few weeks, I would guess. Okay, then there's another massive update to FPS weapons. This is in my opinion, and they're adding new optics and weapon attachments kind of that were hinted in the recent roadmap update. There's basically new Volt optics, which are 1, 2, and 3x varieties, and they look really good. And there's this blinding flashlight, which is absolutely insane. And then there are a bunch of new barrel attachments, but they can really only be seen in Arena Commander right now since they're hard to find. More on that in a little bit. But I did find all the tweaker attachments in the contested zones. And yeah, they've changed a little bit from their original stats to fit more in this ecosystem that's being created here. Basically, there's a few new stats that we haven't seen yet, and they all have pretty significant drawbacks on each item to their bonuses that they do give to kind of make you feel like you got to choose wisely for certain weapons. And yeah, they rebalanced the Custodian as well, which kind of nicely brings it back into the fold a little bit more. And oh yeah, engineering is here, you know, not in tech preview anymore, probably the more impactful part of the patch, but the changes above were the ones that were surprising to me and that I enjoy the most. So my experience with engineering was, of course, a bit mixed. I took out a Paladin with fellow creator PC101. Show him some love on Twitch and YouTube if you guys haven't yet. And we did some intersect missions, and I played, you know, I just played how we normally would, just trying to complete the mission. The first one, we took quite a bit of damage when our shields were down and had to repair mid-mission and come back. And that made us both kind of feel real, like the damage was real that we were taking, but it also makes destroying NPC ships more difficult and confusing. More on that later in the week. This is where the update seemed to excel quite a bit, is the post-fight repair, where it makes your ship feel like the most important tool to your goals instead of like that throwaway Allen key that comes with your IKEA furniture. But this is also, you know, kind of really time consuming and seems to be a bit too frequent that you have to do. Lastly, at this stage of the patch, armor is in, but we have no idea about the status of armor or anything like that, and they do update that later. Also, if you were living under a rock, there's some really nice ASOP changes where you can search for a ship. That's really awesome, but my favorite is the little toggle at the top that only shows ships that are retrievable in your location. The player injury update from last patch was basically kind of bugged. Now it's not, so you can now get past a tier 3 injury, especially a tier 3 chest. As you see, I have a level 2 arm injury here. Tuesday was also a wave 1 PTU, and the main update here is that they simply added more engineer ready ships. A lot of people here are assuming that they may not get all the ships done, but this isn't a small list and they have a couple weeks to go most likely. Wednesday, we went to Wave 3 PTU, and let's start out with the new loading screen. This may have come on the Tuesday patch, but I didn't play much of that one. But yeah, on the left, we're seeing the end of the Frontier Fighter storyline, which was quite boring and so far has no change to Pyro at all, which was what we were promised at the beginning of the year. The middle is some lore to maybe justify that mission markers go through jump points now, not really sure there, or maybe some other information they want to pass through in the future. And the right side is hinting at the Luminalia celebration, and it's got a Volt LMG skin there. And also hints to engineering and the UEE pushing into Nyx at the bottom. The UEE thing is, my guess, is the storyline for 2026. It's very kind of forward in NPC conversations and things like that. They also brought all of our weapon fire rates back to the faster rates of 4.4 and reduced the health of the armor of all ships. Not sure why they did this, because in theory it would lower time to kill, but the big thing here is power plants can be repaired and prevent going critical. There was also some shop updates, the main one being the L21 Wolf being added to the patch and at a really good price of 2.38 million. Inflation in Star Citizen is so bad that basically is the cost of like a Cruise Lux now. I checked as many shops as I could as well, but I didn't see much of a change to the shops in terms of weapons and attachments. Maybe they added more of the old attachments to the shops since so many new ones are available. There is the Heartseeker and Scorp turrets added though, and I found them at Center Mass in Area 18. Now, big shout out to Rat Scarlet, who told me that the new attachments are in the loot pool, specifically at Jumptown, because who goes there? Like, I didn't even remember that Jumptown existed, and at the OLPs in the storage room. So not sure where else yet. And yeah, give Scarlet some love on Twitch as well, because yeah, look at this, the loot in the CZs, yeah, it's all just gone in this patch. So hopefully that doesn't go to live. Thursday, another Wave 3 PTU. The big thing of note here is at the start with the implementation on engineering, as it becomes incredibly difficult to complete or even know if you're completing kill quests against NPC ships. So they're trying to address that. They're also bringing shield health back to 4.4 levels to match the change from the previous day for the weapons, I assume, and the armor. And lastly, PDCs should more consistently shoot bombs. And then Friday, we went open PTU. Not much here, but I assume they want a more stable experience going into the weekend. And a lot of people are speculating that this was going to go live already. I think this one will go down to the wire, as it does at the end of every year. They want to get as many fixes and things in to have that stable Christmas break patch, right? So, all right, that wraps up our patch notes. Let's move into roadmap updates. All right, and for the roadmap, we'll start out with 4.4 cleanup, I'll call it. It's, you know, where they add all the things that we already know about to the roadmap that we're already playing. So it's just adding the IAE ships to the roadmap. And yeah, let's get into the 4.5 additions. And we'll start out with loot refresh. Next was something that I struggle with. We're in a dire need of a loot refresh, but what we don't need is introducing content that you actually have to make an effort for, added to this random dice roll in the loot pool of boxes, right? I always think back to the Vandal Mask. No matter how cheesed it was, they added it to the game in a fashion that took all of that achievement completely away. Even if you cheesed it, that was more of an achievement than just randomly looting boxes, I feel like. Same with the subscriber items and stuff like that. I would like there to be a cooler way of getting it at some point. Does that make sense? It just feels like a very, I don't know, weird way of doing it. And I know the game is still where it is, but yeah, just putting my feedback there is I would love to see it done in a more effort way and a more fun way of effort, right? Wicklow updates is next. And yeah, Wicklow improvements. They first talk about adding a number of new ships to the shop list, and this list is long. The Idris is obviously the big one, and the recipe was leaked, so people are already farming it like crazy, which really sucks. Leaks are the worst. I'm sorry. And then you have the Asgard, Prospector, Raft, L21, and this weird thing where you can get the L21 by completing other Wicklow offerings. It's hinting at reputation, right? Then you have the rebalance part, and that's where it's hard to tell what they mean. Was it too hard or was it too easy? What's this rebalance all about? We'll have to see. And yeah, we all know that they want to balance the effort, but we don't know what that means, really. There's a new contested zone ship, and yeah, they got to be trolling on this one a little bit. It's the Meteor, and I don't think I've seen this ship very much in action in anything, and yeah, the CZs are a love-hate thing for me. This is by far my favorite content in the game because it isn't ship-focused. I do like the FPS experience more than I like the ship one, but obviously they still have not addressed a lot of the issues, like the fix to door glitching. It's horrible, and yeah, all the ships added to Wicklow, and the Meteor is the one you add to the CZs. Yeah, a lot of the ships in the CZs lineup are desirable. This just isn't one. So it feels like adding a 0 to a roulette wheel that already has a 0 with the Sulin, right? So I don't know about that one. The weapon attachments, we talked a lot about these already. I want these additions to truly give variety and choice to the FPS player right now, and I think they do. And yeah, it feels like there's going to be a right choice for certain guns, which I like. And then ship changes, yeah, the patch updates spoke about these, but yeah, it's listed here, which feels like a filler card, but this is actually a really large change, right? And with that, that's our roadmap updates. We actually had an Inside Star Citizen this week, so let's talk about it in video updates. All right, this ISC was called Talking with Torsten, and yeah, we already had a playtest with engineering a long time ago in Arena Commander, and they tell us kind of what they basically learned from that.
We had before like the direction of things have to happen. You have to be on your toes, you have to be very reactive to everything that is happening. We noticed that this is not particularly fun, so...
Just giving people something to do is not enough.
Giving people something to do can be really fun, but it pulls too much attention to these rather than of the gameplay that you should experience.
Warning, fire detected.
So the direction that we got was, and we are now acting on, is that engineering gameplay is there to extend the lifetime of the ships rather than making your life miserable on a ship.
I think this change actually shows in the game somewhat. At this point, we still are dealing with a lower TTK than many of us hope, but them saying their intentions is what really matters here, and they have to achieve that. Will they achieve that before the holiday break? Who knows, but we know that's their goals, so we just need to help them get there, right? And then they talk about preparation.
The main things right now that you have to do, or you should do, is prepare for travels. So you should buy fuses ahead of time so that you can replace them once they break on the ship. You should buy enough filled RMC canisters so that you are able to repair the components on site. Bigger ships that allow components to be swapped out in fight or in your travels. You can also prepare by buying components and then storing them on the ship so that you can replace them. So this is like the prep work, the first, hopefully, 5 minutes if we can make something work.
He's trying to get vendors added to the spaceports so
Yes.
that you don't have to run around. We'll see if we end up with that or not.
A lot of people scoffed at this during my react to the notion of preparation, but the key here is at the end. Finally, somebody is saying it. The sheer time wasting in this game is so bad. They don't need to add vendors to the spaceports, though. We just need more functionality, like in our mobiGlass, to be able to buy items remotely and just have them in our city or station inventory when we get there. That sounds like a lot less work. Also, there's no visual art, there's no NPCs that need to be walking, none of that. It's just, you know, simple. And Jared knowing CR would never allow such a player-friendly change at the end there is also a classic. Single-seaters don't have the same engineering that multi-crew ships do, and he explains a scenario kind of on how that might work.
In the single-seat ships, the fighters and stuff, does this still affect their day-to-day life?
No. So yes, but no. so engineering gameplay affects everything. What engineering gameplay does there is that it extends the lifetime. So imagine you are on your single-seater fighter, you're not doing too well, and you barely survive. Now you can use the MFD to repair the components that allow you to travel back home. So this is the extension of the lifetime of the ship that you invested time in.
All right, now all that on paper sounds good, right? Sort of. Only really in PvE. Here's why. In PvP, everyone is going to full kill to prevent this functionality from ever having you kind of raise from the dead and be able to kill the person that just killed you. This specific scenario contradicts their death of a spaceman mechanic a lot, in my opinion. Let me know what you guys think about that. But PvP, who's ever going to let you repair by pressing a button, right? One of the larger changes was the fuse gameplay, and Torsten breaks it down.
How do the relays work?
They changed a little. So if you recall in the early tech preview and even the early arena commander mode, relays were like the weak point of any ship. We thought back in the day that this is a really, really good idea. And to a degree it would be. But with ships where some relays are placed in a very accessible position for getting shot at some point there will be the expert players that will just target those and you will be rendered useless within a blink of an eye, which disagrees with the statement of we have to bump up the TTK here. So relays and fuses are still relevant, but if a relay does not hold any fuses anymore, basically the ship cannot support the full amount of power that the power plant would allow you to have.
My experience with this was quite interesting. I saw 6 red power pips after losing all my fuses after an explosion near our ship, which is a whole nother thing about engineering they're gonna have to deal with. I replaced them and the power pips just came back. Pretty simple, but while we were with no fuses, we were not able to run the ship very effectively, but we were able to run the ship, right? So that's the big difference there. And lastly, to me, this is the most important part of the ISC.
The feature is made to stay. This is Star Citizen. This is the definition of Star Citizen. This is what we always wanted, and finally we have it.
Where we've been talking about going for the last
Yes.
5 years, yeah.
It doesn't mean, though, that what you see right now is set in stone. So we appreciate all the feedback that we receive. We are aware that we don't deliver something that is perfect right away. So we need your help, as always, to point out the things where we can still improve. We are not done yet with engineering gameplay. There are still things that we have on the list. And we are consciously holding back those ideas right now because we think we already gave a lot and we are a bit scared of overwhelming the players a bit. And now we want to observe you playing that and basically figuring out what still needs to be added or even what we need to adjust.
They're just going to keep building this up, right? More importantly, they are literally holding back things because they want to make sure they don't make this experience what many people feared it would be, which is overwhelming, too many things to do, and not simple enough. And I think that's a really healthy thing to do right now. And I just think that shows their maturity and their growth as a company and a developer a little bit. There's still lots of problems with them, but I think that is definitely something to highlight. That was the ISC, that was video updates. Let's move on to other updates. All right, this other updates section is fairly short. We'll start out with a sneak peek. It's clearly an Illuminalia sneak peek, as this is a reused asset, though. You guys remember this pot? It was from a subscriber reward. They had the, like, kind of anime-looking pots. But if you don't know what Luminalia is, it's a login reward type promotion, but it's not on your client, it's on the website where the real game is played, right? So that's kind of what's happening here. There's probably going to be a Luminalia themed Christmas tree pot thing. That's what that looks like. For the subscriber promotions, the $10 promotion is the classic t-shirt. I do think when base building comes, this is really going to show its lack of value compared to the $20 sub, because that's a holographic totem pole that looks sick. And again, it would have been an awesome item to find in like QV stations to bring back home. But yeah, it's also a cool cosmetic to sell, so I get it. And of course, you can buy a package of both. And then the engineering guide is the big thing here. I personally think it's worth going over if you're not sure on how everything works, but I think it makes a lot more sense as you're trying engineering for the first time to do it without looking at this and be able to give that blind test of what feels intuitive, what doesn't, and provide feedback that way, right? But this post does go into detail of what each thing does, and more importantly, what happens when that thing fails is probably the most important part, so you know kind of how to prioritize and what to fix first. And I think the most important bit of information is around what armor does, and how this basically creates this ballistic, or more importantly, explosive meta again. I really never liked the way ballistics have been handled over the years in this game, and I wish it was a lot more of a simplified mechanic of some kind. I don't know what the right answer is, but, just an example would be one of ballistics or lasers is good against shields or armor, and the opposite would be good against the other thing, right? No mixed builds in 4.5, I don't think. I think you're going to see a lot of ballistics and probably a lot less lasers, and that'll be that. So with that, guys, that was our weekend review. I do hope you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure you hit that like button. If you really enjoyed it and want to see more, hit the subscribe, and yeah, leave a comment down below on anything we discussed. Let me know how you feel about it. I always read all of the comments. I may not respond to all of them, but I read every single one. So if I see your mean comments, and I see your nice ones as well. So thank you again for watching. I hope you guys all have a wonderful week, and I'll see you guys next week.